to take up this challenge after a long time? You have been away from the Sri Lankan cricket for a long time. So, like, what made you take up the job, and what's your blueprint?
Okay, so the main reason I took up the job was it's a very young, inexperienced team. So I think it's important that we come down and support this team. When Mahela, Kumar and Dilshan were there, they didn't need people like us because they were very experienced and really good team at that time. So when this young side was there, and when the board approached me, and it was Aravinda De Silva, and said, why don't you come and do something? And I thought it's a good time to come down and support this young team to get to the next level.
And I would like to know here that the transition phase for Sri Lanka has been one of the longest. Like, as one of the Sri Lankan cricketers, who a World Cup winner and someone a proud Sri Lankan, like, what has been the reason you think that the transformation is taking so long? Because you cannot say that people like Chandimal or Kapugedara are very young. They have been around for 5-6 years. So why is this? Why haven't they taken up the baton? What from Mahela and Sangha?
Yeah, I think we had. It's a very difficult question to answer, but what I can see is we had a lot of changes as well in the team, and I think the last most probably 12 months we had 5 captains, mainly because of injuries and things like that. So it's very difficult for a coach as well to try and build a team and have a consistency. So and I believe that's one of the biggest issues. We had people getting injured and a lot of changes happening. But one of my main goals and going forward is to have a stable team. Hopefully the captain can play all the games, because that's very, very important, because Angelo's injuries hasn't helped as well. Because last year I think he only played about 40% of our Sri Lankan cricket through injury. And it's very important that I have him, because he's very experienced, good leader, and I need him here. So my main goal for the next 12 months is to have a stable team, get them experience, at the same time get them focusing on tough situations, because that's where you win matches. It's not consistency comes from teams knowing in a tough place how to win a game, and that's the main goal that I have with this team.
Like, do you think that is one reason where probably in terms of talent Chandimal or Kapu doesn't lack anything? Probably that's where probably Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma is scoring above them in terms of international success.
I actually do agree with your comment, because some cricketers, because some of them are young as well, and it's the match situation knowledge that we need. And the team names you mentioned, like Kohli and Rohit Sharma and a lot of others, their knowledge of match situation is one of the reasons they're consistently scoring, because you got to first analyze the wicket, how it's played. You might have to play some maiden overs and then build up the score and work it out. So that is where another area that I am focusing on, and getting these guys to understand match situations. And you take the South Africa game, there were about 2 or 3 wickets we threw away, which if you really worked on the current situations, those guys would have batted through and we would have won the game, to me, in the 47th over or 48th over. So that's you're right. It's they need to understand the situation and work according to that.
And like, you have been like, we used to know about you during your playing days. You are a very cutthroat person who would speak straight and all. So, like, in the Sri Lankan setup, which has seen its ups and downs, now that you are a part of the system after a long time, how do you see the system? And because Sanath has been a part of the system, Aravinda De Silva has been a part of the system, but not much of it, because when they were a part of the system, both Kumar and Mahela were very much present. Now you are interested with the team on the rebuilding phase. So, like, how do you look at this challenge coming after so long, getting into the Sri Lankan cricket?
I actually believe it helps me because I worked 20 odd years in Australia, so I'm used to a different system in Australia, how you work there with people, and I'm actually doing a very similar thing here. I'm not going to change according to the Sri Lankan board systems, and I have been very open and very direct with the president as well, who is the person I work very closely with as well, the Mr. Tilanga Sumatipala, CEO Ashley De Silva, and chairman of selector Sanath. So one thing with me is you see what you get, and it's much easier, and I'm not going to change that style. I'll work according to that, and I believe I want my players to be like that. These guys need to be like that. If they don't agree with something, I've asked them to challenge me, because I don't want people like nodding their head and saying, yeah, that's okay.
And you know that they haven't Nothing has registered between the 2 years.
Absolutely. And I told the captain and the seniors, I want you all to challenge me and say, no, what you're doing is wrong. Because to me, there's no right or wrong. If we work together, we can find a really best solution for the team. So I can see a lot happening with some of the seniors like Angelo and a couple of other seniors, what they're doing. And I'm really happy that they're challenging me on a lot of things. And to me, is like, wow, it's great. So that's my style won't change.
And one last question for you, like you are preparing the next batch for to replace Sanga and Maida. Legends can't be replaced, but yeah, at least you're trying. So what happens that Lasith is also reaching a business end of his career. So what after Lasith, a bowler of his caliber, at least in terms of limited overs, because he didn't have a great test career, but limited overs.
Look, I think as you mentioned, you can't replace legends. So I'm not even looking at things like that. It's like we will never replace Murali. I was lucky enough to play with him, and you will never replace him. So, but cricket goes on. We got Rangan Herath coming and replacing him as a spinner and taking wickets, but not at the same level. So, my goal is to look at.
Don't you think he's a very underrated cricketer who has given a lot for Sri Lanka?
He is. He's very underrated. I mean, the wickets he has taken and what he has done for Sri Lanka cricket, it's unbelievable. But for us, we got to look at Rangan. He's not going to play that long. It is. He's actually close to 40.
Close to 40.
Yeah. And we got Lasith might not play too long in one day cricket. So I'm looking at players. We might have to get 2 players, 3 players initially and try them for 6 to 12 months and work it out. The biggest problem for us is we got to keep trying them with good international teams. Like Indians are coming there. You know, they're very good side. So I can throw a young guy in there, but at the same time, I might ruin that young guy as well. So I got to be very careful of whom I throw into that team to test someone who can handle pressure and all of that. So there are youngsters who can get up, and in batting side, like there are a couple of guys, and one guy is actually Dhananjay De Silva. He's not here in this side, but he's got so much talent. But then he also is a guy who needs to understand situation and play according to that.
Lanka is also very good. He played the T20 innings in Australia.
You're right. He's very good. There are a lot of youngsters who have come up, and it's important now we pick them and try and play them against Zimbabwe, because we got 5 one-dayers and a test against Zimbabwe before India. So it's very, very important. But at the same time, I don't want to do too many changes and bring 6, 7 and play them, because it's very important that stability, because players were worried, I think, about their places, because when they're worried, they won't perform.
That is, you believe, has been one of the bane of Sri Lankan cricket in the last 2-3 years, that probably a player doesn't know how long he'll be around. No one has given him that pat on the back and said, hang on, probably don't worry about the failures.
Most probably, I haven't followed that closely the last few years, but most probably, but at the same time, senior players also need to take responsibility and start performing consistently, because it is a tough environment. You play so much cricket now. It's not like when we were playing. It's so much cricket. So form-wise, there's no season to say. And form-wise, you actually have more chances of getting into form because of different types of cricket. So players also need to take responsibility and say, I need to step up and lead this bunch of young cricketers. So it's 2 sides. It's very difficult to say whether that was the main reason for changes, but I think some changes were necessary. I heard there were a lot of injuries as well, especially when Angelo goes out. You've got to work around. I mean, even tomorrow.
Balance goes for a toss.
Even tomorrow, we are short of a bowler, so we got to work out our side.
He's not playing tomorrow.
He's playing, but he won't bowl.
He won't bowl.
So that's a big.
And what about Kapoor?
We don't know. So he's actually going to do some scans. We actually got 2 replacements here. We brought 17 players, 15 officially. Okay. 2 players as standbys. Dhanushka Gunatilaka, who's a left-hand opening bat, as well as the all-rounder right-arm off-spinner Dilruwan Perera. So
Dilruwan has played earlier, but I believe needs to fit in since Upul is not playing.
Yeah, look, those are the options we have to work on. So we first have to wait for doctor's confirmation.
But it looks bad.
He looked bad. He was in pain. He's still in pain. Let's see. I'm hoping it's just a
full season ahead, so you need him.
It is. So an important game tomorrow, so we can't take chances. So we'll decide most probably when we hear from the doctors.